welcome to my channel. My name is Nick, and whatever you're watching, I'm making videos about. I love scary movies, and I have been lagging with the horror content recently. So since we were approaching that halfway to Halloween time of year, I've decided once again we should go over all of our favorite horror movies on all of our favorite streaming services. I know you guys love these videos, and I love making them, so let's get started with HBO Max, because they have a top 10 list that reads like a top 10 list of the best damn horror movies ever made, and I'm so excited to share it with you. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you do. That way you stay up to date with what to watch and where to watch it. Number 10 is The Exorcist. Yeah, you know it's good when we're starting out with a movie that is still considered to be the scariest film ever made. Ellen Burstyn plays Chris, a single mother in the 70s whose daughter begins exhibiting strange behavior. Seeking the help of a pair of priests, they learn a demonic entity is possessing the girl. The clergymen wage a war of good against evil in order to save young Regan's soul. A lot of you guys would place this at number 1, and for good reason. Every time I watch The Exorcist, I gain a greater appreciation for it. The direction, the acting, the cinematography. This movie is top notch, but I do have to admit that I don't think it's scary at all. I understand the head spinning and the green slime and the levitating might do it for some of you, but I think it's quite hilarious. Still, I cannot help but admit that this is an exceptional classic.
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
Number 9 is Poltergeist. This supernatural flick for all ages is about a typical suburban family who begin experiencing paranormal phenomena. As things progressively become more sinister, they seek out the help of parapsychologists who discover there is something very strange happening within this house. Poltergeist is hit or miss. It either works for you or it doesn't. This movie traumatized a generation of kids before I was even born. But now some people find it to be laughable, and that's totally understandable. The reason that I think it works so well, and why I think it's such a rewatchable favorite, is that it plays out like a fun house of scares with that signature Spielbergian flair. Number 8 is Saw, an instant classic that still has us following whatever the hell James Wan does. The film that kicked off the franchise that dominated Halloween for nearly a decade speaks for itself, but for the sake of it, two men wake up in the most disgusting bathroom of all time, their feet chained to pipes. Their objective? Saw their feet off in order to escape. A twisty serial killer story unfolds as the men put the pieces of the puzzle together. Okay, let's run through the obvious real quick. Saw was written by James Wan and Leigh Whannell. It was directed by Wan and stars Whannell. This movie launched both of their careers, and they are still killing it in the horror genre today. Keep it up. We love you guys. You're the best. Now, I'm also planning a video on the best thrillers on HBO Max, and I was debating whether or not Saw should be in that video because it is both horror and thriller. But you think Saw, you think the traps and the gore. They do have almost the entire Saw franchise on HBO Max. They have 1 through 7, but it's this original defining horror film of the 2000s that you're going to want to put at the top of your watch list.
I want to play a game.
Number 7 is the Amityville Horror, and I think I might be the only fan left of this film, but I don't care. I love it. This 70s classic is based on one of the most talked about hoaxes in American history. A family moves into a steal of a house at Long Island where a horrible crime was committed. As they try to settle in, they begin experiencing horrific events from slamming windows to bleeding walls that cause them to evacuate less than a month after moving in. While the story this movie is based on might be some old bullshit, the murders that took place in that house did in fact happen, and I think that often gets lost when talking about the true story. Now, I know a lot of people might find this movie to be boring and dissatisfying, and I can see that, but I have to say I think this is the ultimate haunted house movie. If you need an updated version, they do have the 2005 remake starring Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George on the service. I think it's trash, but you might like it. Just watch the original and hate me later.
What do you think?
I love it.
Number 6 is It, Chapter 1. This adaptation covers the first half of Stephen King's epic novel. The Losers Club is a group of misfit tweens dealing with the problems of small-town life during a summer in Maine as an otherworldly entity known as Pennywise kills kids left and right. They band together to face their fears and take on the killer clown in a fight of good against evil. This movie takes the best parts of the book and turns it into one of the best horror films of the 2010s. They do have the sequel, It Chapter 2, also on HBO Max. Boy, do I have thoughts about that one. Can't wait to make a video where I really tear into it. But in case you want to watch it, that's available too. I know a lot of you are not afraid of killer clowns for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with you, but the original It miniseries scarred me for life when I saw that VHS tape at Blockbuster back in the day, and that's also on HBO Max. Because they're amazing. Straight up killing it, you guys. It rises above the rest of the great horror films on HBO Max because it is full of scares, it has great characters, and genuine heart. It's one of Stephen King's best adaptations, and I think it's one we'll cherish until the next time they remake it.
My grandfather thinks this town is cursed. That all the bad things that happen in this town are because of one thing. An evil thing.
I want to quickly throw out some bonuses in the middle of this video because they have The Conjuring on HBO Max. Of course they do. And Conjuring spin-off movies Annabelle Creation and Annabelle Comes Home. They don't have the first Annabelle movie, but no one likes that one anyway. Number 5 is The Hills Have Eyes, the horror remake of Wes Craven's 70s exploitation flick. This road trip nightmare follows an average family traveling cross-country when they break down in the middle of the desert. Finding themselves under attack by a group of radiation-affected mutants out for blood, the family must become as ruthless as the villains in order to fight their way to survival. This is one of the most intense films I have ever seen. It is gory and disturbing as hell, but the reason I find it to be a rewatchable favorite is that it takes all of this very dark and heavy material and handles it with such great direction and high aesthetic value. They also have the garbage sequel available on the streaming service, and you know I like bad movies, but this one is so bad you're gonna want to skip it. Warning, The Hills Have Eyes comes with all of the trigger warnings. There's sexual violence, the dog dies, there's a baby in peril. It is not for the faint of heart.
There are like people or something living in those hills.
Hello? Yo, my friend! Hey!
Number 4 is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Moving on to something directed by Wes Craven, this seminal slasher is about a group of suburban teens who find themselves targeted by serial killer Freddy Krueger, who attacks them in their dreams. Final girl Nancy begins testing the killer as she tries to save her friends and take him down once and for all. What is there to even say about A Nightmare on Elm Street? It's one of the greats. They have most of the franchise on the streaming service, basically everything but Dream Masters. You know, the one we all love. They've got the garbage remake, but not Dream Masters. HBO Max, work on that, okay? They even have Freddy vs. Jason, and you know, because I'm such a Jason fan, I gotta point out they've got the Friday the 13th remake, as well as Jason Goes to Hell.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Number 3 is Scream. Yeah, I told you this list was good. Wes Craven returns to reinvigorate the horror genre with this slasher about a killer who terrorizes his teen victims over the phone before murdering them. Sidney Prescott and friends try to survive as the Ghostface killer picks them off one by one. I have to say, I think it's so funny that Scream is probably the most dated movie that still works. Like, no one answers the phone anymore. Is it Ghostface? Is it a robocall? Doesn't matter, because I'm not answering. They don't have the entire franchise on HBO Max. They don't have Scream 4, but they do have Scream 1 through 3. And with Scream 5 coming next year, there's no better time to binge these favorites.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. Ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure. I'll be right back.
Number 2 is Jaws. I know, fucking Jaws, right? The original blockbuster follows a seaside community rocked by a series of shark attacks. Sheriff Brody takes up the cause to take down the beast with the help of a marine biologist and a local fisherman in a film that birthed the creature feature. Who doesn't love Jaws? If you don't, you're wrong. This movie is practically perfect. It's entertaining, it's scary, and it holds up on repeat viewings. They do have the entire Jaws franchise on HBO Max, but who really cares? Although I gotta say, Jaws 2 is fun as hell.
Is it true that most people get attacked by sharks in 3 feet of water? About 10 feet from the beach.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What could be better than Jaws, you might ask? It's The Shining, a movie I will always consider to be the scariest film ever made. Another Stephen King adaptation, this one was made by master of cinema Stanley Kubrick. Jack Nicholson stars as Jack Torrance, a recovering alcoholic who takes a job as the caretaker of a remote hotel. Moving his wife and son into the residence, the family begins experiencing paranormal activity of the most disturbing kind. You guys know The Shining, and if you don't, well, just turn it on and welcome the nightmares. I know some people find this movie to be funny or they have their own problems with it. I saw this movie when I was way too young. I was 6 years old and it scarred me for life. Those twins, they get me every time. The lady in the bathtub, she haunts my existence. The Shining might not be the movie that Stephen King wanted, but in my opinion, it's scary as all fuck. And it's a perfect horror film, guaranteed to terrify every generation.
Here's Johnny.
I want to throw out a quick bonus recommendation because I really wanted to include this on the top 10, but I know art house horror isn't for everyone, but if you can get into it, you gotta watch House. This Japanese surrealistic nightmare is about a group of teenage girls who head to an aunt's remote house in the countryside for a relaxing excursion. Once there, they find themselves in a house unlike any other that begins terrorizing them. I really don't even know how to describe this movie because it is unlike any other haunted house movie I have seen, and I don't want to spoil the goods, just know it's wild. It's crazy. A piano eats people. What? I have to throw you guys a bad movie recommendation because it's my thing. It's what I do. Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 is the sequel that no one asked for and no one deserved. Following the release of the Blair Witch Project, people from all over America travel to the woods of Burkittsville, Maryland in search of the witch. This includes a group on a tour led by a local. Weird stuff happens, totally not even related to the first, but shit goes down, people die, there's a goth chick, there's naked hippie footage. It's insane. For me, this checks off all of the bad movie boxes. The plot is nonsensical, the acting is ridiculous, and it could not be more the year 2000. Even if this is the most cash grab sequel that I can think of, it delivers on pure entertainment value.
You know, if you don't believe in the Blair Witch, then why the hell did you bother to come?
I thought the movie was cool.
That is my list of the best horror movies currently streaming on HBO Max. Let me throw some honorable mentions onto the screen because they have so many damn good horror movies on the service. I could easily do a top 20, but we've been here long enough, so just let me know what your favorites are in the comments or which ones you hated. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it as always. Like I said, I am going to be covering the best horror movies and the best thrillers on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Hulu, what have you. Let me know if there's any other services you want me to cover or what you're looking forward to seeing. Thanks again. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd if you want to see more of what I'm watching. That's it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.